This video is sponsored by my favorite website creator, Squarespace, the best place to go when you want to get a domain or create a gorgeous website or an online store. I'm actually lying to you in the title of this video because I haven't been vegan for 15 years. It's more like 15 and a half by now. So I was thinking, for those of you who are like new vegans, or for all of you who are thinking of maybe going vegan, but you're wondering like, how would a life like that be, and how would it affect like your body and your everyday life? So I thought, why not use me as an example? So let's look at my body and my life and take stock. What has more than 15 years a vegan done to me? And I don't mean the classic things, I mean more like the weird or unexpected things that I had no idea of when I went vegan myself all those years ago. First of all, and probably like the most surprising thing about going vegan, is that it feels natural. I mean, for my body. Because 15 years ago, everyone, and myself included, thought that veganism was bad for your health and like a sacrifice you did physically for your ethical reasons. But of course today we know it's quite the opposite. I remember one day quite early on after going vegan, I was out for a hike and I reached this like steep hill that's quite brutal to walk up. And I walked up that hill hundreds of times before. But this one time I just felt like so good and energized and light and bouncy. And I remember feeling like, oh, so this is what my body is supposed to feel like. It was such a weird moment, but I do still feel like that, just right in my body, and as if this is like my natural state. Of course, I don't know how I would feel if I had eaten meat for the last 15 years, but I remember how I used to feel before, so much more like down and tired. So this is the number one biggest surprise, and just the best thing really, that my body is happy and energized with me. Another thing I wasn't expecting is how cheap it can be. Of course, it can also be super expensive to be vegan if you go for all the luxurious artisan cashew cheeses or whatever. But back in the day, when David and I struggled quite a lot with money when we were building up our business, we had such a strict weekly budget for food. And what we would buy was like fresh veggies, but the cheaper ones we could find, which in London then was curly kale and carrots and like cabbages and green beans. And most importantly, dried red lentils and brown rice, because actually still to this day, one of our number one favorite dishes and such a staple in Mustard headquarters is brown rice and lentil congee with sauteed veggies. Basically, congee is just like rice that's cooked for so long that it becomes like a porridge or a gruel, which I admit does not sound particularly appetizing, but it is just so good. So just like throwing veggies in there and then seasoning with garlic and ginger and soy sauce and vinegar and hot sauce. I kid you not, my saliva glands are actually like reacting just now by talking about this. It's the best food in the world because it releases energy so slowly and like evenly throughout the day. So it makes you feel less like blood sugar spiky and less like you're always craving a snack. You should see David when he's on congee. He becomes like this happy, calm, super content person. And when he's not on congee, he becomes much more, you know, like up and down, hunger moody. And I go like, oh honey, it's time you make another batch of the good stuff, you know? Also, have you seen that wonderful documentary about Joan Didion? She was one of those people with tiny appetites, but the two things that you would always have was like a can of Coke and, yes, congee. So even though David and I are people with actually quite huge appetites, we still agree with Miss Didion. It's a staple. You should try it. Speaking of authors eating congee, you know the publication date for my debut novel is coming up real quickly. So please be a doll and pre-order if you haven't yet. It's such a huge help to boost the book and give it like the best chance possible to make a little splash in the book world. Oh, and also one of the two main characters in the book, Sam, she's actually vegan herself because I thought, why not, you know? And she's such a whirlwind, chaotic character. I really hope that you're gonna like her. So pre-order links with worldwide shipping is in the description. Okay, this next one is a small one, but totally unexpected, because by now we've been vegan for so long, and also like most of the people that we hang out with are some kind of, you know, veggie, flexi, pesque, whatever tarian. So sometimes I kind of forget that not everyone is at least semi-vegan. So it hits me sometimes, like, wait, people eat what now? Especially when seeing, you know, an ad for meat. It just looks so alien to me, that I get an actual shock that people still eat this. So, which I guess shows that a lot has happened in 15 years back when David and I were the aliens for not eating meat. One of the loveliest effects of going vegan, at least for me, is that I feel kind of like, a sweet person. So I've realized over the years that I'm just naturally a lover girl, like sensitive and completely uncynical. So then when life, kicks you around for a bit and you learn more about how horrible the world is in a lot of ways, of course you become more cynical as you grow older. But it's just not my nature. And I think for me, choosing this one aspect of my life where I'm being like sweet and like against violence, it makes me feel like I'm not disconnecting from my sweet and cynical personality. So I have no idea if this makes any sense, but like whenever someone says it's no point going vegan or doing this or that because just one person can't make a difference, and of course that's true, but like it makes a difference for me and how I look at myself and my life. And also all those cynical people who said to us 15 years ago that we wouldn't make a difference. It's kind of crazy to me to see how much has changed since then, and like every supermarket having, 15 different types of vegan mayonnaise or whatever. And of course, it's not because David and I went vegan way back when, but it's because many millions of people did. I've actually never thought about it that way before. I have to say, it does make me feel kind of good about being like an optimistic, sweet, naive girly. Another surprising thing, it's so much easier than I thought that it would be. Like I said, I'm not Joan Didion. I do have a healthy appetite, like a really big taste for food. And I used to love all the cheeses and sour creams, and yes, the taste of meat and fish too, although it's really weird to think about that now. Still, if I'm completely honest, I never miss any of that. And I didn't even at the beginning, like I never even think about it. It's just such a habit. And also the food I eat now is so great. There's no like flavor or consistency or ingredient or whatever that I miss. Not even a little bit, which I definitely thought that I would. So I asked David about this too, just before planning this video, and he said the same. Like, if he sees something non-vegan that looks good, he just thinks about eating the vegan version of it. And that brings me to another unexpected thing about going vegan, actually. I told you guys before that like having a creative job where I need to constantly come up with ideas for new content and like make 1,000 micro decisions every single day, I've definitely over the years nurtured quite a case of decision fatigue. Too many options is a bad thing in my mind. And back in the day when we went vegan, more or less the only options for protein was like beans, lentils, or firm plain tofu. Of course, since then there's been like an explosion of vegan foods, but still, I do feel like our diet is very simple and pared back way of eating, just like veggies, congee, tofu, noodle soup and porridge, like basic simple food on repeat. And whenever we order takeaway, it's like we want to support vegan restaurants, so instead of hundreds of local options to order in from, we have like 5 or 10. So it's just like a more scaled down, simple way to eat, both at home and when going out. So what about the negative surprises? I've tried to think of something, and I know that some vegans feel like it's sad to go home and visit family when they can't eat like the traditional food that they grew up with, but I don't have the problem at all. So the one thing that I could think of that could be a negative maybe, and that I would never ever had thought about back when deciding to go vegan, is that I don't think that I could now fall in love with someone who is a non-vegan. Like, it's just such a huge part of who I am and how I see the world that I can't see myself living with someone or kissing someone or sharing my whole life with someone who would eat meat. Isn't that strange? Like, I never would have thought about it all those years ago, but if David died or dumped me, I would have to find myself another planted. Luckily, there's so many more of us around nowadays. You just have to go to a Whole Foods to find us, Another thing that might shock you to know is that I'm now 15 years in and I'm still waiting for that protein deficiency to kick in. Any day now. What about you? Are you vegan or a meat eater or maybe vegan curious? I know that we all have very different experiences about food, but I hope that me sharing what these 15 years have been like might be helpful in any way. Do give me a like if it was, and if you want me to make more foodie lifestyle routine videos going forward. And don't forget to click subscribe if you haven't yet. Oh, and thank you to everyone who has already pre-ordered my book. You're my favorite people, that's for sure. So you want to create a beautiful site and maybe start your own blog? If so, you should definitely do it with Squarespace. They have great blogging tools to share your stories, photos and videos to make it easy to reach your audience. You can also auto-post your content to Twitter, Facebook or Tumblr, and simply schedule your posts for them to be properly tagged and the descriptions and titles will show up correctly. You can of course also add your social media accounts to your site so that it's easy for your readers to find you everywhere. Squarespace also have great traffic analytics so that you can see how many people are visiting your site, how long they're staying for, where they're coming from and what they're interested in, like food or interior design or maybe books, for example. So what are you waiting for? Go get your free trial today at squarespace.com, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/jennymustard to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you so much guys for hanging out today and see you soon. Puss puss!